All right, everybody. So in the last module, you heard from Kevin about how to set up your business and some of the basics that maybe some of you are familiar with if you've been in the business world, but a lot of it might be new to you in the Amazon world. And the same thing goes for something very specific, and this is about e-commerce insurance. Maybe you've been in business for a long time, and you understand what insurance is and how it's used. There might be a little bit of difference here in the Amazon world. Maybe you're brand new to e-commerce, brand new to having your own business. This all might be new to you. So to help us understand this very important topic, we invited one of the most knowledgeable experts in the game on this. Ashlyn, welcome to the Freedom Ticket. How's it going?
It's good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to get to know a little bit more about your audience and tell them about insurance and how we can protect their assets and how to avoid problems moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I saw the little pun you did right there, which is, as we're going to find out later in this module, is actually very appropriate. Now, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background in this field?
Yeah, so I am located in the great state of Indiana in the middle of the cornfields and the soybeans. And I kind of got into insurance on accident, e-commerce insurance. I was an agent for Liberty Mutual Insurance, and I was doing home, auto, and life insurance. And one of my clients came to me and said, "Hey, I'm selling online on Amazon, and they're requiring that I have this insurance. Do you know anything about it?" And I was like, one, I didn't even know that there was third-party sellers on Amazon. So no, I have no idea what this insurance is about. And he kept hounding me and hounding me. And I finally was able to get a policy. And he came back and he's like, "Hey, I'm in this community. There's 15,000 of us that need this and that are worried about it and can't find it anywhere. Could you help?" And from that day on, I created Ashland Haddon Insurance, and we work strictly with e-commerce sellers, going from brick and mortar to e-commerce, or just going straight into e-commerce, helping them start and ensure their business and kind of grow as they grow from RA, OA, wholesale into private label, kind of ushering them through that process. So now I get to deal with online retailers, the crazy online retailers, and listening to all the crazy stories that you guys come up with. So that's kind of how we started. We have 16 women who work with Ashland Haddon Insurance who just focus on protecting your guys' assets. So
Awesome,
it's been
awesome. All right,
been a
let's
crazy
start with
ride for 6 years.
yeah, excellent, excellent. Now, let's just start with the basics. All
Yeah.
right, so let's just pretend that I'm completely new to running my own business, to e-commerce, and I have never heard of e-commerce insurance. How would you define that term, first of all?
Yeah. So e-commerce insurance is a little different than your normal brick and mortar insurance, because you're selling a wide variety of products online. So brick and mortar stores, you typically have, your bed and bath stores, you have your lingerie stores, you have your food and supplement stores. You usually kind of niche into something and you have a lot of foot traffic. Online retail is different. And what we've all learned over the last couple of years is sellers will sell anything that they can make a couple of bucks on, right? It might be a pen, and the next day it might be brass knuckles. It really doesn't. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason. It's just whatever you guys can make money on. So underwriting those risks have been very, very difficult. So that's where they've come in with like online retail insurance, is covering those products. It really has evolved over the last couple of years because of the legal requirements. Back 5 years ago when I first started this, Amazon was in the courts all the time talking about, hey, if something happens, we're not going to be held liable. This is the third party sellers. They're picking these products. They're selling these products. We don't want to be held liable for it anymore. This is on the third party seller. What we sell as Amazon, yeah, of course, we're going to be liable for, but these third party sellers need to be on their own. And the courts agreed. They're like, you are just the vehicle to sell those. So over the last couple of years, Amazon really started pushing back and saying, hey, if you're going to put crappy products on our platform, we're going to hold you accountable for it. And so they're like, okay, we're going to start requiring that this insurance be in place. And 2 years ago, they came out and said, okay, once you hit 10,000 in sales, you are now like the pro seller. This is your business. This is what you're going to be doing. We want your certificate of insurance. So they really started policing this a couple of years ago.
Is that 10,000 lifetime in a calendar year?
Good
What's the
questions. They're
time
saying
frame
like
we're looking at here?
10,000 in 1 month. Like once you hit 10,000 in 1 month, this is your job now. You're doing this full time kind of thing. We want the insurance. So what Amazon said is they want general liability and product liability. And what that means is your general liability is going to be what you do or say as a business, right? So I create a listing, or even I hop on someone else's listing and I'm selling lip gloss. And in that listing, it says this lip gloss is going to make your lips sexy and voluptuous and plump or whatever. And I get it and I try it on and I don't think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I sue you for false advertisement. Well, there's 30 people that are on that listing. They're going to list every single person. So they're going to list the manufacturer, they're going to list Amazon, and they're going to list every third party seller. That's going to be general liability. That's what you did as a business. Now, let's say that lipstick not only didn't make my lips plump, but it also broke me out and I had hives and I had all these issues and I had a malfunction with the product. That's product liability. So Amazon said, we want you to have both. We want you to cover what you do or say as a business and what your products do to harm someone else. Once you hit that 10,000 mark. Now they're policing it at 10,000 in 1 month. All right, so when you signed up to be a pro seller, in those terms of service, there is a section that says you are going to have insurance, you're going to maintain insurance, and that you're going to list Amazon as the insured vendor. So if you haven't gotten your insurance yet, you're already breaking terms of service. So Amazon requires it no matter what. They're just policing it at that 10,000 a month mark.
Okay. Now, here in the Helium 10 community, there's a lot of our Freedom Ticket students who might be have their own brands or they're doing private label. There's others who might be selling other brands, be it through wholesale arbitrage or other means. For these different types of sellers, is there different kinds of insurance that they need, or it's what kind of a one size fits all?
Great question. So the insurance is the same type of insurance. Now there's differences in the underwriting. If you're just reselling someone else's products, it's going to be cheaper, right? Because you're not really the manufacturer of those products. You're just reselling those products. What you're going to use your insurance for then is really just to get you out of a lawsuit. So let's say you are in that lawsuit with the lipstick or the lip gloss, and somebody makes everybody in that listing part of the claim. People come and say, Ashley, well, I have an LLC, so I'm fine. Okay, well, pick up the phone and call that LLC. Are they going to defend you in a lawsuit? No, they're not. It's great that you have an LLC, and that's a really great step in protecting your personal assets, but they're not going to defend you in a lawsuit. What the insurance policy does for an RA seller, RAOA, or wholesale seller is it's going to be that buffer. You get listed in that lawsuit, you pick up the phone, you call your agent and say, Ashlyn, I've been listed in a lawsuit. What do I do? And we turn it over to the insurance company. And we all know that insurance companies don't like to pay claims, right? Like that's just part of it. Nobody likes to pay claims. So you bet they have the best darn attorneys on staff to get you out of that lawsuit. But that could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. If you don't have an insurance policy, you're hiring those attorneys on your own at $450 an hour. So RAOA wholesale sellers, it's cheaper, more inexpensive, and it's quicker underwriting. Your private label sellers, you now become that brand owner. You become solely responsible for that product and what it does to other people. So sometimes it takes longer to go through the process because we're trying to find the right carrier for you, and it's going to be more expensive, period. You now are responsible 100% for that. One of the other thing that kind of comes up with this is bundling. Is when I buy products in bulk and I break them down and I put them into a bundle, a lot of people are saying, well, I'm just reselling. I'm just taking 10 staplers and I'm putting them in individual packages and I'm reselling a stapler and a pencil and a pen together, whatever. Once you take that item out of the original packaging, you now become the brand owner of that. You are removing the original packaging. You now become responsible. So that's like one of my biggest tips to avoid problems is if you bundle, I'm okay with bundling. Just leave it in its original packaging. If you want to save on cost, keep the stapler in its original packaging, keep the pen in its original packaging, keep the pencil in its original packaging, put the original packaging into a box and put your label on the box. Now I can say you're reselling. But if you take it out of the original packaging and put it in a box, you are now solely responsible for what happens to that. So that's tip number one. If you're bundling, keep everything in its original packaging. Or even if you're not bundling and you're just reselling, keep everything in its original packaging.
Okay. Now, these terms of service you mentioned, came around, maybe a couple of years ago, but your company has been around before then. So it wasn't just, oh, because Amazon wants everybody to have insurance, that's why I need to have a company. You were providing insurance for Amazon sellers even before. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
why even irregardless of the fact that it's the law by Amazon and
Yeah.
e-commerce platforms now, what are some other reasons why someone should have been thinking about insurance in the first place, like other benefits other than just compliance with Amazon?
Yeah. I mean, for sure, compliance with Amazon, because if you don't, they suspend you and there goes your funds. But peace of mind, really, when I got into helping ecom sellers, what I heard over and over again is I don't know what I don't know, right? What if something were to happen? So just knowing that you have insurance, that if something does happen, you're going to have someone there to help you, to help defend you. Um, and it just makes good business sense. Like you wouldn't drive around without car insurance. You wouldn't have a brick and mortar store without insurance, right? So why would you have an online store without insurance? And the biggest thing that we're seeing in the legality of this is when the economy is tougher, um, people sue more. And I really think with online retailers, they don't realize that it's a Bradley from California. It's an Ashland from Indiana. They think they're suing Amazon. They think they're suing big bucks companies. They don't realize there's normal people who depend on this for their everyday lives. The claims go up when the economy goes down because people are looking for a quick buck. Um, so for the cost of an insurance policy, it really is a no-brainer. It's going to give you that peace of mind. It's going to help you with brand, your brand reputation. If you're building a brand and that brand hurts somebody, if you don't have an insurance policy to compensate that person for their harm, they're going to go all over social media. They're going to kill you, kill your brand on social media. So if you had a policy just to like, hey, we know we screwed up. Here's compensation for your time and your effort and your pain and suffering, that reputation management stays.
Okay, good to know. Now, just still on this topic, and it's going back to the fact that it's required by Amazon. What are some of these requirements? Like, I think I know the answer. Like, matter of fact, I think insurance for my Amazon accounts comes from you guys. But what are like at least the minimums that people need to be getting per what Amazon's policies
Yeah,
are?
so they just want $1 million general liability and $1 million product liability. That's all that's required by Amazon. But as an agent, we look at your whole entire risk. Like we are asking those questions. Where are you sourcing from? Where are you holding your inventory? Are you using a 3PL? Are you fulfillment by Amazon? Are you using your personal vehicle for company use? Those types of questions, because this is what we do. We protect your whole entire assets, not just an online company who wants to sell you a $25 policy. So we suggest several other coverages. The big thing that we always suggest is your inventory. We hear a lot of people like, hey, I've got $40,000 of inventory in my basement. I got $30,000 in my garage. I got $20,000 in my mama's garage. I got $40,000 in my friend's garage. I've got inventory at my 3PL, all of these different places that you guys hide your inventory, and it's not covered. We hear a lot of people say, well, I have homeowners insurance, it's covered under my home. Unless you can convince the insurance company that you have 10,000 tubes of toothpaste because you only use your toothpaste one time and then you throw it away, they're going to know it's for a business and they're going to decline it. So you have to have the right coverages. We've seen a lot of 3PL issues lately. Another problem avoidance tip is making sure your 3PL has insurance. I insure almost 60 3PLs right now, and I could say with confidence only a handful of them insure your products while they are there. So let's say the 3PL goes up and disappears. Where's your inventory covered? It's gone. You have no recourse unless you cover that with your insurance policy. So kind of keep those things in mind. You get what you pay for. If you want a $25 online policy, you're going to get crappy coverage.
Now let's switch gears a little bit, and I'm just curious, I've had you on our Helium 10 Series Sellers podcast before, but one thing that we haven't gone too much in depth on, and I was just curious about, is we don't want to scare people out there,
Right.
but can you give some experiences from, like, your clients? Obviously, you don't have to mention any names or anything, but where they had something come up that wasn't expected, which is what happens, the whole reason why you have insurance, and where they probably wouldn't have been in a pickle if they did not have insurance. So, like, a couple things that maybe it very likely could possibly happen to somebody who's watching this video today, but they were completely fine thanks to having a policy.
Yeah, this is my favorite topic. I love claims. So I love to tell this one story, this one claim, because we hear people all the time say, nothing can happen to me. I just resell other people's products. I'll be fine. I'm under the $10,000 a month mark. I don't need to waste my money on this. Well, we had a client who was just a wholesaler, and I don't remember what his niche was, but it wasn't anything crazy, right? So he was just reselling. Well, he had a client buy something, and this was a couple of years ago before Amazon had more of their vans, and it was being shipped with USPS. So that must have been 4 years ago. And USPS laid the box in front of this guy's door. Well, he comes out, he trips over the box, breaks his hip and breaks his clavicle. Well, he sues Amazon, he sues USPS, and he lists my third-party seller in the lawsuit. It's like, you tripped over a box, bud, and you're going to list my third-party seller in the lawsuit? So we called the insurance company. We got the adjuster on it, and it was like $30,000 in legal fees just to get him dropped from this lawsuit. So of course, he wasn't liable for anything because he wasn't responsible, but we still had to defend him. And the legal fees to get somebody out of that was over $30,000. So even if you're just RAOA wholesale and you're selling stuff that's not risky, you 100% can get pulled into that lawsuit.
Now, are you saying, did the insurance cover those legal fees?
Yeah. So it was $30,000, over $30,000.
Okay.
And he paid nothing. Absolutely
Wow.
nothing. His insurance policy covered it. And his insurance policy, when he bought the policy, was $550. So that's kind of where somebody had insurance and we were able to kick in. I want to tell you one other one that I really love to tell. It's because it's one that didn't have insurance. So we had one of our community members come to us and say, hey, I have this warehouse. I want to get insurance for it. So great. So we did the quote. We brought the insurance package back. We looked at a bunch of different carriers, presented a couple of them. I was super excited. It was a really, really great quote. And he's like, I'm just going to hold off. I think I'll be fine for a little while. So then it was about 6 months or so, Bradley. And he came back and he's like, hey, I need to get that policy active today. And I was like, what's the rush? Like, you put me on ice for 6 months. Why do you need it today? And he's like, well, I was moving some racking around in my warehouse, and there was a pipe at the floorboard that was kind of in the way of my racking. So was able to move the pipe around, like divert the pipe somewhere else. Well, I guess we didn't get the pipe tight enough. And now I have 3 inches of water across my entire warehouse, and I have probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage of my products. So we need to get that policy in place. And I was like, yeah, you should have had it in place 6 months ago, because then I could have covered it. But I can't cover it now. Like, it's already happened. So, I mean, he lost several $100,000 in inventory, which would have been covered if he would have spent the $2,500 and bought his policy. So you can see it both ways. That, yeah, will you ever need it? Maybe not. Maybe not. But I can't help you when you decide you need it.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Now, that somebody might say, "Hey, like I have my own big insurance company because I have, all these claims with my uncle who's got works for Nationwide or one of these big companies, and then I've never heard of you or some others that Amazon sellers have talked about, that are brokers. What's the difference in this field of like brokers and some of the big
Yeah.
companies, because
Yeah.
when we're talking about Amazon sellers, and we'll be talking about that later in the Freedom Ticket, like for example, people when they go to Alibaba, they're like, oh, I need to go to the factories. Like, I don't want to go to the brokers or the trading companies. I go direct to the big guy. But actually, in the insurance world, that's not always the best case. Or
Yeah.
help educate me here.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is, we're a brokerage firm too. So we are kind of your middleman. We have 32 different companies that we work with. What's great about working with a broker is you don't pay us. It's the same cost if you use us or if you go direct through them. But what you're getting is the advice and the experience of knowing what to add to the coverages, what not to add to the coverages. And you're working with one person, where I don't know if you've ever shopped for car insurance online. You go in and you type in a quote, and within 5 minutes, you're getting 14 phone calls from all of these different companies trying to sell you insurance. They sell your name to everyone, and everyone bombards you with it. And all they're trying to do is sell you a policy. When you work with a broker, you give us the information one time. It stays within these 4 walls with the 16 women that work here, and we shop for you. Again, we've got over 6 years of experience of working with Amazon sellers. We have over 10,000 insureds provided. We have over 10,000 Amazon sellers insured now. So we know what we're doing, and we know what each carrier wants. So you might be selling private label brass knuckles, and you try to go to a Hartford. Well, Hartford's not going to cover that. We already know that. We've done that, that experience and that looking for you. So you're getting the expertise. If you're going online and using one of these companies direct, you're relying on your information to input into a computer. You might say, well, I sell, brass knuckles, but you're not saying that you private label brass knuckles. So you're not getting the right coverage. And we've seen that a lot. We see customers come to us and say, well, I have a $500 policy now. Why is yours $1,500? So then we get a copy of the policy and we look through the exclusions, and there's exclusion there for private label products. All you do is private label products. So why would you spend $500 on a policy if it's excluding exactly what you do? So sometimes people think that they're doing the right thing, but they really don't know. So you're getting the knowledge, you're getting the experience, you're getting the right coverages, and you're getting someone involved in the community. I know 2.5, 3 years ago, when Amazon came out with the new terms of service and they require the certificate of insurance to be listed a certain way, we proactively reached out to the 8,000 clients that we had, created a new certificate of insurance, emailed the new certificate of insurance with instructions on how to upload the certificate of insurance to Amazon. None of these other carriers did that stuff because they didn't even know. They had no idea that Amazon changed anything. But because my brokerage firm was involved in the community, we've been to the conferences, we're watching the news, we knew that and we're proactively sending that stuff out. So that's really what you get when you work with a broker instead of, the Hartford Direct. Hartford Direct doesn't care. They're not going to know if there's an issue until you call and say, hey, I need a new certificate of insurance.
Now, you've mentioned different prices. Some people have $500 policy, some 2,500. I would assume that there's going to be a wide range of prices that depend on what the person is selling, how much maybe they're selling, the type of business they are, et cetera. But just to kind of like, let people know what is a range. Like for new sellers, I'm only about to sell my first product. I'm just barely hitting that $10,000 a month. Like, what range would they be looking at? Maybe a larger seller. What range, just so that they know they're not being fleeced here when,
Yeah.
when they go out and try and source this.
Yeah, so you're right. It really does depend on what you're selling, how much you're selling, where you're sourcing from. Are you just RA, OA wholesale? Are you private label? But to give a little bit of buckets, your new sellers who are not doing private label, most of the time, and don't hold me to this, most of the time are in that $500 to $600 a year range. Now, if you're selling high-end gun parts and things like that, absolutely different, but low risk new sellers, 5 to 600. Then I would say you have another bucket of like more riskier resellers. That's going to maybe be that $1,500 mark. And then your private label, I would say the starting point for your private label that you should budget for is $1,500 for the year, but definitely goes up. I mean, we have sellers $40,000 a year that are doing multi-million dollar hand sanitizers and stuff like that. So definitely a range. But again, with working with a broker, we do that shopping for you. When you say, okay, here's 5 different carriers and they're all coming in around $600, pick your best one. Pick one that you feel most comfortable with. I'm also, Brad, I'm on Facebook all the time. I'm open to, you're walking around the Canton Fair and you see a product that you like. Shoot me a picture of it. Text it to me and say, hey, Ashlyn, I'm walking the Canton Fair. What do you think about this product? What do you think the risks are? What do you think the cost is? Another problem avoidance I would say is do your research first. Ask those questions up front. What do you think the cost of insurance is going to be before you put in a purchase order for 500 brass knuckles? Ask those questions. Do your research first. And I'm always available to bounce ideas off of.
So if anybody out there is interested to reach Ashlyn, guys, you can just go right here in your browser. You're in the Helium 10 ecosystem already. Go to hub.helium10.com and then click on or just type in the search bar Ashlyn Haddon. Just type in the search bar Ashlyn Haddon. You'll see her page right here in the hub, and then you'll be able to go to her website. You'll be able to hit the contact button and reach out to Ashlyn and her team. So, Ashlyn, thank you so much for giving us all this knowledge here in the Freedom Ticket program. This is some people say this is not exactly a real sexy part of selling
It's
on Amazon.
not.
There's a lot of unsexy parts of selling on Amazon, but it doesn't make it that much less important. If anything, this is one of the more important parts because, like you said, literally, if you are doing $10,000 a month and you don't have this insurance that Amazon is requiring, you guys could be suspended by Amazon, or even worse, something could happen to you and you are not going to be covered. So make sure you know everything you need to know about this subject. And if you need to get more information. So Ashlyn, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see everybody in the next module.